Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. This is a challenging time for our industry. We're here for you, we're thinking of you, and we hope the information we're sharing today can help you strengthen your business and serve your guests when the time comes to welcome them back to your venue. In an effort to help you prepare for when you welcome guests back to your venue, we will continue to share insights and guidance, including today's presentation. My name's Joe Wettstead. I am Vice President of Client Success for Accesso ShoWare. I'm joined today by Alicia Chism, Director of Client Success. Before we get started, I'd like to go over a few housekeeping items so you know what to expect and how to participate in today's webinar. You may have already noticed that your voices have been muted. You will have the opportunity to type questions, and they will be addressed at the end of the webinar. At Accesso, we know you want to be forward-thinking and an industry leader. And in order to do that, you need technology solutions to grow your business and create connected guest experiences. Because technology really is critical to the success of your business and the happiness of your guests. And we should probably also point out for the safety of your guests in this new COVID-19 era. It's not always that easy and can leave you feeling overwhelmed. Venues around the world struggle to keep up with evolving technology and growing expectations, and often lacking the functionality, resources, and data they need to succeed during this pandemic and limited reopenings. At Accesso, we get it, and we provide solutions that empower our clients to create connected guest experiences that drive their business forward, from distribution with Ingresso, ticketing with ShoWare or Passport, point of sale with SeriousWare, queuing with LowQ, and then really tying the entire guest experience together with TE2. Our suite of solutions is ready to help you at your venue. And that's why over 1,000 venues in 30 countries have chosen to partner with us. In today's webinar, we'll be specifically talking about our Accesso ShoWare box office ticketing solution. Accesso ShoWare serves a variety of live entertainment venues around the globe. Our highly customizable white label platform is designed to deliver to sold out houses and standing ovations. With over 600 installations in theaters, concert venues, sports arenas, casinos, fairs, and attractions, our box office ticketing solution is a proven success. As you'll see today, there are lots of features and functions that can help in creating a new guest experience and again, get back to driving revenue for your venue. How are we helping clients reopen? We've seen reopening across some of our base, roughly 20%, and mostly within our attractions space. And if you're following international news, you know that internationally, Australia has recovered relatively well. And at least that was the case when I drafted the script. And I kind of left this in because if anything's consistent right now, it's change, adapting, and trying again. So we are seeing ticketing levels return to near normal, even with reduced capacities in some of these markets. Those reduced capacities, however, are filling up fast. I find peace and hope in these early successes as many patrons want to be out and are starved for some sort of an entertainment or attraction experience. So ShoWare provides services for a venue called Village Roadshow. It's actually a company called Village Roadshow Productions in Australia. They produce movies, the Ocean 11 series, etc. So commonly known as VRTP, they also produce a dinner show outside of one of their theme parks called the Australian Outback Spectacular. And we reworked their seat map to accommodate socially distanced seating about 2 months ago for their dinner show and experience. This was in advance of the soon-to-be released functionality Alicia will cover later in today's presentation. So the seating we put in place has performed remarkably well. And if you'd like to see this in action, just search Australian Outback Spectacular and you can kind of get to the purchase ticket section. I'm sure you all know how to do that and give it a look. Another venue in the Asia Pacific region is, and specifically have a venue in Melbourne and Sydney, is ArtVo. This is a walk-through exhibit gallery of sorts, and they're using a time ticketing approach to limit the number of participants per time slot in the attraction. So, as I'm sure you are all aware, these openings can change quickly and hotspots may dictate further shutdowns. For instance, Melbourne location had to shut back down. Another instance of this was our client Photographiska in New York. They were poised to reopen. We had done a lot of work together. We were ready. It was put on hold or postponed again at the governor's orders. So I guess the real takeaway here is we're here to have you ready when the time comes. And we've worked with many venues over the last several months with many of our clients in this regard, both domestically and internationally. What we'll discuss today, and I just want to reiterate, reopening and reopen responsibly for your guests and reducing liability for you is not easy and can leave you feeling overwhelmed. My hope is today's webinar can provide you with the tools to reopen safely, reduce future risks for your venue, and I hope you leave with some inspiration that reopenings are happening, and in most cases, these reopenings are very successful. Let's take a first look at tips for reopening safely. While we've all had to take pause over the last several months because of COVID-19, we also knew that there would need to be some necessary enhancements to our offering to help you communicate, sell tickets, and be as compliant with reopening practices as possible. So before we get to Alicia and she reviews some of the new features developed or in development, let's review some of our features that have been in the product for a while, but maybe in the current environment need a refresh. So site special communication feature, Alicia will cover this, but this is a great way to kind of get in front of people from the ticketing homepage and allows you to communicate important information. Things be upfront, communicate what's required to attend, and don't make these things seem optional. Online only. We'll talk a little bit more about this later, but this reduces contact. It makes sure you get a full patron record for contact tracing, and then allows for that print at home or mobile delivery, which is touchless. So, reducing these contact points with your staff, with other patrons lining up at a box office window. The big theme parks have already gone to this online only practice. You got to buy it online in advance before you get there, and full patron record for contact tracing. Time ticketing functionality, again, if applicable, this is big for mainly attractions and exhibits. We talked about ArtVo, we talked about Photographiska, but the timed entry option is really a fantastic feature of the product. We've won several new venues over, again, in this attraction and exhibit space, the zoo space. But if this applies to you, reach out to your CSM, as the time ticketing functionality, limiting inventory by time slot is really what we're talking about, is really a nice feature within the Accesso ShoWare platform. Socially distant seating algorithm. This is a big one. This is probably what everybody's most excited about for our reserved customers. And we are pushing this to production today. And this allows you to configure the seating gaps to your desired distance. So there's a little configuration, and then the system kind of does the rest and helps space out the venue. Patron credits online. We've really gotten some good feedback on this one. This is on production, has been for a week and a half. So if you have customers who took a patron credit for canceled shows, they can now access and use that credit online with no necessary interaction from the venue. There's also some enhanced reporting. Alicia's going to deep dive on that. Special seating. This is a functionality that's been, in my opinion, really underutilized in the product in communicating specific seat information. So typically it's used for disability seating or obstructed view, but this is a great way to communicate maybe a COVID policy, or also to communicate a specific arrival time for that seat within the special seating. Take a lot of work, but it's something that's there. Door entry points is another great way to use the labels within that seat map for your door entry points to include an arrival time and then call those things out. That is seat map specific, so if you're using that seat map across multiple performances, they're all going to have the same entry times, and I think that's pretty that works well. Confirmation emails, so time to revisit those. Let's not go live with the same confirmation email we've been using for the last 5 years, because again, times have changed. So we need to communicate new policies. We need to communicate what the patron's responsibility is, what we expect of them, and then communicating those arrival times. And those arrival times, there's other low-tech ways to space people out how they're arriving to your venue. If your name starts with A through F, you should arrive at 5:30. You know, if your name starts with W through Z, we'd love to see you at 6:30. So those type of things can be simply communicated, low tech, high touch approach. Call centers remain live throughout the pandemic. You know, as many of you did, we did have to change from a sales center to a refund center, and that was tough. The venues and the stories we've gotten and appreciation for us being there has been great, and something to consider. Finally, streaming. We'll talk about streaming a little bit later in the presentation. And then we do have a email integration with Emma. This is a great way that's integrated into the platform. Again, a lot more communications necessary. Why not simplify and revisit our integration with Emma? So at this time, Alicia.
Thanks, Joe. As Joe mentioned, my name is Alicia Chism, and I'm the Director of Client Success here. We wanted to take this time today to go over a few of those features that Joe touched on earlier in a little bit more detail that we've been working on to help you and your venue reopen. The first one is that socially distanced seating. Actually, it is going out to our dev sites today, and it will be on production at the end of the week. So it will be coming. We will make an announcement on the What's New alert when you log in, so you'll be able to see that as well, but it will be there by the end of the week. With this new feature, you now have the ability to, on a map-by-map basis, determine the number of seats required to maintain proper social distancing protocols for your town, city, or state. So if 2 seats gives you the proper distancing for one map at a particular venue, but you need 3 seats on another map, you can do all of that with the new functionality. You can also determine the messaging displayed above the map as well to alert your guest. Here you can see that we have selected it as a warning message. You can also select from the drop-down menus to make it a notification, which would be a gray alert message, or an actual alert message, which would show it as red instead. You can find all of this, again, later this week in your seat map in the basic settings. A couple of things to note with this new functionality is going to be that Quick Pick is going to be the best, is going to be optimal for this feature, because it's going to use the algorithm to pick which best, as opposed to having guests pick their individual seats. The other item is, if you decide to allow guests to select their own seats, we would strongly encourage you to disable the restrictions on orphan seating, which can make it more difficult for your patrons. And here you can see what it will look like to your guests. The seats that are blocked out to maintain social distancing are going to be clearly identified on the map and in the key below as a red circle with a line through it. Your message text will show directly above the map. Again, this is messages set up on a map-by-map basis, so each message can have each map can have a different message or a different type of an alert. It will give the guest peace of mind knowing that socially distanced seating is something that you have taken into consideration, so that they don't have to worry about that as well when they come to your venue. The next feature that we have is our time to entry formatting that Joe had touched on earlier. This will help those of you that need to move to general admission time to entry slots. You can see here that guests can now clearly see the days and time slots that are available. We can show the number of tickets available as well, or just that there are tickets available. This is Photographiska, who we were all ready to make those to go live before the government instituted some additional scheduling pushbacks. So if this is something that might be helpful for you, or you want to talk through it with NES, any of us, please reach out to the CSM team, and we'd be happy to talk you through that. The next feature that we have rolled out is that ability to allow patrons to use their patron credits online. If you're on a split payment system, which most of you are, that means that you have patron credits already available to use. To take advantage of this new feature, you just have to go into the payment type of customer credit and edit it to allow online redemption. Guests will then be able to use their credit online without having to call the box office, keeping those resources available for other pressing items. Once you have enabled it, your patrons will be able to see their outstanding credit in their account online and use it on their next purchase without having to get you and your team involved in the process. To help you with the larger number of patron credits that most venues are managing, we've also added in an additional report in the patron section of reporting to give you the current total patron credit outstanding, along with a ton of filters to run it on. It's going to be called the Available Patron Credit Report. This will help you if you want to send more targeted marketing campaigns to patrons with credit that fit into certain criteria, or you can just leave it blank and run it to get all current data. It's entirely up to you. In the output, you can see the details that you will get so that you can do an email blast or mail campaign and get it to those folks that you'd like to reach. Another thing that we have added is the ability to create that navigation bar item that Joe had been talking about earlier, along with the pop-up button on the ticketing homepage. We've left the ability for you to customize what that button says, as well as the content and the formatting inside of it. While you can use this for COVID-19 updates, we wanted to leave it flexible so that you could customize it to communicate what works best for your organization. So you're going to find this in your system messages under general information, the site-wide important info button pop-up, and the button text. If you by some chance have special formatting on your site and you add your text and you don't see it pop up, it's just because we didn't want to impact anyone who might have special formatting. So it's been hidden, but you can just reach out to the CSM team and we can easily get it adjusted for you like we did for this client. I know that Joe already mentioned it, but it does bear repeating that now is probably a great time to go through those messages and make sure that they are communicating what you would like patrons to know. But don't forget about your staff. There's a login alert message also found in your system messages section. That is a great place to put information for your internal team to have at their fingertips when they log in. It's helpful to be able to have that information posted there in these times of limited hours and remote working to make sure everyone on the team has the most current information.
Thank you, Alicia, for the overview on those features. Good stuff. And again, if you have any questions about any of those features or functions or just how to accomplish something that's specific for your venue, please reach out to your CSM and we will be there to assist you. So next up, we want to talk a little bit about avoiding future patron conflict. I think we all learned a lot about the value of private label or white label ticketing, not outsourcing your ticketing to a portal type provider like a Ticketmaster or an Accesso or Eventbrite. You're already a step ahead of a lot of your competing venues as the buck stops with you. Feel good about that choice to own your ticketing. The venues that outsourced have really had their hands tied in regards to patrons getting refunds and getting clear and concise information still to this date. The patron relationship is out of that venue's control, and yet many patrons still hold the venue ultimately accountable. So, quick story. Alan Stone, I'm a Alan Stone fan. I like him as a performer. My wife got me tickets for my birthday, and like pretty much everyone in the last 5 months, I was ultimately disappointed that the concert was canceled or was rescheduled. Wait, it's canceled. So, you know, who's accountable? I was getting messages from the artist. I was getting messages from the venue. I was getting messages from Ticketmaster. And I know, being in the ticketing business, Ticketmaster was ultimately accountable, but many consumers do not. They again hold that venue accountable. I was not looking for a refund, and I was hoping for a reschedule. Ultimately, over 4 months later, I did receive a refund. So cancellations, reschedules, people worried about money and demanding refunds, I know has been a real strain on each of you and really our entire industry. So let's dive a bit deeper here, and if I get a little preachy or sound preachy in this section, I apologize in advance. The pandemic has been and continues to be rough on all of us, no matter where you sit in the entertainment supply chain. It was quickly very apparent that many of our venues had return, cancellation, and other policies that when this hit did not serve the venue well. And without the venue, the supply chain breaks down, it falls apart. So the most pervasive things I saw in the Accesso ShoWare call center and talking with venues during this pandemic, and let me qualify that with so far, are you need to protect yourself with return policies. Be specific and be upfront. Events that are rescheduled will have a different cascade of refund options than a straight canceled event. So some sample messaging may be, this concert is being rescheduled. Once the event date is set, if the new date does not work for you, we will address refunds at that time. We commit to communicate any updates on the rescheduling as soon as we have them, and we appreciate your patience as we work through this process in this very difficult time. Important, you do not need to contact us at this time. We commit to communicate with you every step of the way. And then, of course, you have to do that communication in order to kind of keep those patrons, fans at arm's length while you work through your strategy of that reschedule. So once you're ready to entertain refunds, make sure your policies, again, protect you. We can't go back in the past, but as we reopen, we can learn from the past. So ticketing fees and processing fees. You need to protect your venue by excluding fees from refunds. Not just ticketing fees, but also credit card processing fees. This is likely one of your biggest expenses. And I do realize this may not be possible across the board here with everyone who's on the call because we went through 6 different market segments we work in, but I do think it warrants some thought, and if you'd like to talk with me about it, I'm certainly always available. So a client I'd like to feature, and I thought they had a really good approach to this, was the Mount Washington Cog Railway in New Hampshire. It's successfully reopened, and they have a great policy around cancellations, and it's all communicated up front. It's communicated by the call center. It's communicated in the confirmation email that they receive. So policy part 1, you can cancel within 24 hours of your booking with no consequence. Full refund. So you call Monday at noon and then call Tuesday before noon, full refund. After that, you can cancel and receive a rain check, patron credit, for use in the future. This does not expire. So again, Alicia covered the patron credit online capability. This is your best friend during this time in retaining funds. Use it. Policy 3, if the patron can't travel, so you're not canceling the event, you've rescheduled, you're not canceling the event, they choose not to travel because it's their choice not to come, and they need a refund, it's less processing and ticket fees. This is usually $17.50 a ticket. Their tickets are $72 to $80 for an adult, $42 to $51 for a child. So usually $17.50 is held back per ticket. This is reasonably, especially if you have rescheduled and the patron will not take credit for future use. And it's their choice to cancel and not attend the new date. Again, you have to be upfront with the policy, and this makes it much easier on staff. In fielding many of these calls through the Accesso ShoWare call center for the past several months, Mount Washington Cog Railway patrons have seen the policy, and they understand the policy, and a lot of times just right out of the chute say, this is the option I'd like to take. So they agreed to it. It was communicated up front. Also, this is not universal. There will always be that guy who is not happy, but better to have one unhappy guy than 100. Better to give one full refund to that guy than 100. So the key here is everything is communicated up front. It really reduces most conflict. Include the policy in the confirmation email and where it makes sense in the purchase flow, and you may consider outsourcing call center services so that if you need to shut down or reduce box office contact, your customers still have some place to call. Venues who had the ShoWare call center during the pandemic have been very appreciative of the fact that we remained open, we continue to take their calls, and again, as I mentioned before, became more of a full service center, helping venues with refunds, customer credits, rebookings, even outbound calls to help out. So some other things I think warrant a look. Many of you have ticket insurance already on your sites. If you're not using it, it's a great way to reassure patrons that it's safe to buy, and if they become ill, they're covered, and so is the venue. So please reach out if we can assist you with this service. Ticket insurance actually increases conversion rates, and I have to say, since the pandemic, patrons buying ticket insurance has increased exponentially. Make sure to communicate that the customer assumes all risk, posted in maybe the important information area that Alicia showed you, or right on your homepage, included on print at home tickets. And just real quickly, here's what Disney uses on their website. We've taken enhanced health and safety measures for you, our guest and cast members. And we ask that you follow all posted instructions while visiting the Disneyland Resort. However, an inherent risk of exposure to COVID-19 exists in any public place where people are present. COVID-19 is an extremely contagious disease that can lead to severe illness and death. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, and that's linked, senior citizens and guests with underlying medical conditions are especially vulnerable. By visiting the Disneyland Resort, you voluntarily assume all risks related to exposure to COVID-19. I think this is important, and just to highlight, of course, I'm in California, and California is a very litigious place, and there is a current meat packing facility where some employees have become ill, and there is a current pending lawsuit. So, it's good to just, be on your toes and, over communicate and protect yourself. And finally, online sales. Again, I said we'd dive a little deeper on this, or advanced reservations are a must. Most venues, theme parks, attractions are accepting online or phone orders in advance only. We're seeing this across all our business units. So you have a Six Flags season pass, you want to use that season pass, you have to go online, you have to register and say you're going to go that day. And if there's a reservation available, you can use your pass. If there's not, you have to choose another day. This ensures they see your policies, they accept your disclaimer, as I just stated. Also, it reduces contact with your staff and other guests. And finally, and maybe most important, online sales or phone sales ensure necessary patron information is gathered for contact tracing activities. I promise you that if the health department shows up because someone was infected and they need a list of attendees, a manifest of your attraction, and that list included anonymous orders, that is going to be a red flag. It's going to be a violation and result in potential shutdown until remedied. If you do open the box office, you must either use full patron checkout, and really who doesn't want all that great marketing information, or at least get the name and phone number, email address in the quick checkout, and there can be no exceptions to that during this time. So I wanted to close on a positive note and maybe even an inspirational note by sharing some creative things a few of our clients are doing that are unique and forward thinking, and they're really doing what they can to get back after it, start generating a little bit of revenue, and realize that has to, make sense. There's a lot that goes into these decisions. So Tupelo Hall in May, Tuepelo Hall in Maine. This is a great longtime customer that was one of our first to reopen with drive-in concerts. They also have some table seating outside for their restaurant and distance food and beverage service. Take a look at Tupelo Hall in Maine and see what they're doing. This has been really a great success. TicketWorks is a seller of ours in the Minnesota, Minneapolis area. Again, John Work is a reseller partner. He's worked with a local promoter in Minneapolis area to put on a very successful drive-in concert series called the Relief Sessions. They are in the process of adding a second round of concerts, and they have been very well received. I do believe every single one of them sold out, except one where the artist changed, and that was just unfortunate. So they do 2 shows a night, and to make the most of that backline equipment that they have to rent to put on these shows. But again, it's been a big success, very well received. Our friends over at the Washington State Fair, again, a top 10 fair, had to cancel their annual fair, and along with most of our fair and festival customers, it's gut-wrenching, but they're doing a drive-in series with fair food concessions. I mean, you have to have those Washington State Fair scones, and who can live without that annual corn dog? I will say the Washington State Fair opened their food sales at 9 a.m. and the first car was waiting at 6 a.m. And I have to just reiterate again, people are looking to get out and do something, something safe, something different, but something nonetheless. The Accesso ShoWare Center, in partnership with the Lions Club and the City of Kent, are doing drive-in movies. Almost every night sold out. They play a kind of a younger kids movie, early show, a big kids movie, adults later. They're running 2 shows a night, and the high quality LED screen can be seen in day or night. So movie 1 is at 6 o'clock, movie 2 is at 9:30. Sometimes there's a double feature. They have some concessions available, and they're selling out the 95 spots every night. I think they're running these like 4 nights a week, maybe Thursday through Sunday. Now, it's not the 7,500 seats they normally have, but it's keeping in touch with the community, and it's something to do. Again, something to do outside the 4 walls, and people are eating this stuff up. Alicia, you want to talk a little bit about Ticket Window?
Yep, Ticket Window is another one of our clients. They are putting on a drive-in series of concerts in Canada. They're actually the one that's featured on the screen here. And you can see that they've done a really good job laying out the venue and giving guests and showing like the distance between your cars, along with the flow for the parking lot and where the facilities are all located, pointing out which spots are obstructed, these orange ones behind the concession stand, and giving patrons a clear idea of what to expect when they arrive. Because most folks know what to expect when they arrive to your venue, but the drive-in theater or the drive-in option is new. So being clear and kind of providing all of this in a very clear way kind of helps alleviate some of that anxiety of like, what happens when I show up? The next really good option, or next really good example that we have is Downtown Cabaret. They have done a really great job creatively of providing access to their vault, which includes 27 archive videos of their award-winning and critically acclaimed children's shows for a month to watch as many of them as you would like if you donate the value of your season ticket to the cabaret, or if you don't have season tickets or would just like to make an additional donation, you can do a donation of $100 and they provide access to the vault as well for that month. It has been a wildly successful item for them to kind of look at something that they're already using, that they already had, and position it in a way to still find a way to provide value to guests.
Awesome. Yep. Great. Another great example. And I had talked about the Cog Railway earlier, and they reopened mid-June, and take a moment to check out their socially distanced seating on each car. It's just if you want to go straight to the ticketing site, it's ShoWare. Or thecog.showware.com. Take a moment to look at the seating on each car is socially distanced. And then on their main site, thecog.com, they have a great campaign around the socially distanced practices we all need to be pushing, right? So, and I really like how they play up being a good cogger. A good cogger wears a mask. A good cogger stays 6 feet apart, so on and so forth. So really, they have some fun with it, but it also is, you know, in the guest's face, they understand and they know what's expected of them. Um, Another venue, again, just trying to give you some inspiration and hope here, is Terra Blue. So they've reopened. It's a lavender farm up in Canada. You know, who doesn't want to walk through a lavender farm in Canada right now? I know I do. So reduced capacity, few changes, limited tickets in specific time slots. This again, this idea of time ticketing, 60-minute arrival window, and you can check them out at Terra Blue, TERREBLEU.showware.com. And again, just a good early success story. They're only open a few months during summer normally, and they've reduced that further. But again, they're selling out every single time. Next, we'll want to talk about Showvation, a reseller partner of ours out of Arizona, and they mainly focus on dance studios and do stuff all across the country. And I thought it was interesting. We do some call center stuff for them as well, and they have done some of the dance recitals using Zoom. And so it's streaming is a big discussion. Just so you guys know, we are looking at a integration with a provider that will allow streaming services and streaming of events and selling tickets to that event. It's economical. It's easy. You don't have to use specific equipment. You could use an iPhone or up to a 4K camera, whatever you want to do. But the Showvation, again, example, so mom and dad go in person, and so you can have like 2 to 4 people per family, everything's socially distanced to watch the kids, but grandma and grandpa probably shouldn't go, so they buy that Zoom access. They use the reminder email to send out 1 hour prior to the recital for those who purchase access. So again, I guess my point in sharing some of these successes is keep fighting. You're all creative people. Dig deep and try something new that's low risk. Alicia and I hope to hear from you if you'd like introductions to anyone at any of the venues that have reopened, or if you have specific questions on how to go about using any of the features we discussed today. We are here for you as we continue to move through this COVID climate. And I think that brings us to our Q&A session. And so I'd like to open the floor to any questions. And as a reminder, you can type your questions into the GoToWebinar panel. And if we can't get to all the questions today, we will 100% follow up with emails in our limited time. So Lynette, do we have any questions?
Yes, thank you, Joe. We do have a couple questions. Let's see here. Our first one is, how do the rows get blocked out on the socially distanced seating?
Yeah, so our socially distanced feature is going to cover the spaces between seats. What we would recommend is that if your seat setup, if the rows are too close together, we would recommend allocating or killing those seats between your rows.
Perfect, thank you. Another question we have here is, can I use the socially distanced seating if I haven't moved over to interactive seat maps just yet?
Yep, you definitely can use the socially distanced seating on our older maps. So it is a good time if you do have the time to look at possibly redoing some of those maps and moving over to interactive, which is a better user experience, but it will work on the standard older seat maps as well.
Great, thank you, Alicia. The next one I have is, can you give a little bit more detail on how the streaming integration might work?
Well, I think I went into a little more detail. Again, we had an early partner identified that we were working with, and then we kind of ran into a couple hiccups when we had a international client try to do more than 3,000 concurrent users. So we're reworking that with a different provider that supports well up to 10,000 concurrent users. I know that's probably more than most 95% of you need, but this will allow you to go in. You'll configure everything through ShoWare, set up the event. You'll sell access to that event. The access will be sent out through ShoWare, and that's how they will. That's how they'll gain access to the streaming platform. Again, we'll maybe do a little. We call them demonars, but a short recording of how that'll work when that feature's ready. I expect that to be probably 30 days out.
Great, thank you for that information. Let's see here. What can I do if I am on a single payment system and I want to use Patron credits?
Sure, I'll take that one. So most of you, like I mentioned, are on split payment systems, but some of you might still be on a single payment. And if you don't know what I mean, then you can just ignore this part. But if you can't take more than one payment type per order, you can just reach out to the CSM team. We will get you switched over to split payments. And once you're on split payments, there's a myriad of features that you can use, from ticket resale, but obviously Patron credits as well. So it's got a ton more functionality and more flexibility for you. So if you're interested in taking advantage of Patron credits and keeping those funds with your venue, definitely reach out to the team and we can look at getting you switched over to split payments. There's no cost associated with it. There's very little, if any, downtime as well.
Great, thank you. I think we have time for one last question. Can you use socially distanced seating on pre-existing performances?
I believe so, yes. And I can get confirmation, and we can actually include that in the What's New alert when we make that announcement on hopefully by Friday. So I believe you can, yes, and we will include that clarifying item in that alert.
Great. Well, thank you, Joe and Alicia, and thank you everyone for attending today's webinar. If we didn't have the chance to address your question, we'll follow up with you individually. And if you have any other questions or would like to learn more about our Accesso ShoWare solution, please contact us at sales@accesso.com. We will be sending out a link to view this recording within the next day. And on behalf of Accesso, Alicia, Joe, and myself, thank you again for joining us, and we hope you enjoy the rest of your day.